Sometimes we just got to call a spade a spade.
The Marxist
right?
Jews are a problem. Can we agree to that?
Well, Marxism in itself is a problem, but that's a Jewish construct. So is feminism.
Well, if you say it's a Jewish
constructs.
Jewish construct. That's not Marxism isn't exclusively for everybody that's a Jew.
No, but it was made by Jews.
Marxist Jews came up with the idea, so Marxist
Jews. It's made by Jews. What's up? We are live. I'm here with Brandon Tatum, man, aka Officer Tatum. What's up, Brandon? Here, let me see if I can unmute you real quick. There you go.
I get it.
Got you. What's up, man?
Yeah, what's up? What's happening?
Good. Real quick, can you just quickly introduce yourself to the audience, and I guess we'll kind of get right into it after, because I know we got limited time.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Officer Tatum, aka Talmud Tatum. I can see it in the description section. Talmud Tatum Steen for some of y'all. But anyway, man, former police officer, college football player. I started my social media journey, after being a cop for a while, and I built a pretty big empire. I have over 20, 30 employees here. We do a lot of stuff here. So that's pretty much it.
And you were with Phoenix Police Department, right?
I was Tucson Police Department for about 6.5 years, and I did SWAT. I was a field training officer. I was a spokesperson for the police department for about a year. So I did a lot of things on the police department. Nice.
We'll have to have a conversation on that one day, because I was with HSI for many years, so we could definitely have a good discussion on that. Especially Tucson, it's a very busy city for HSI, man. You're not too far from the border.
Yeah, it's crazy out there.
So I know me and you've been going back and forth, right? We disagree on some things, but I think it's always been a very civil and respectful discourse among, from our disagreements. One of the big things that we disagree on, obviously, is, Israel and our aid and our support of them. I think my audience kind of knows my position already. Do you kind of want to give yours so people don't mischaracterize where you stand with Israel?
Yeah, I mean, my support I'm a stunt Zionist, to say it bluntly. But my support for Israel is twofold. I think it's a strategic support by the United States of America to have Israel as a partner. I think we fund Israel for strategic purposes, which I agree with. I don't agree with everything Israel does, but for the most part, I think that they're a valuable partner for us. Also, there's a spiritual element of it. Biblically speaking, Israel and the state of Israel, the promised land, the Jewish people are all a part of my faith. And God has made a promise to those people, and we should honor that promise. And so I support and believe in Israel spiritually and support the state of Israel, the Jewish state. And then also they're our biggest ally for a reason. And I'm in full support of that. Okay.
Cool. So I guess I know the spiritual reasons that could be a whole discussion in itself, getting into, Christianity and the theology behind this. So I'll just kind of keep it strictly more contemporary and from a military/U.S. foreign policy perspective. So you're saying, like, from strategic purposes, can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit more as to, like, why you think they're a good strategic partner or are valuable ally?
Yeah, because I'm an American first person, but I'm not an isolationist. And I understand that there's value in America having strategic partners all over the world to help us in defense, to help us against common enemies. And I think Israel's position in the Middle East, and they've been just that. I mean, in order for us not to have our troops fighting on the ground and dying for every war that goes on in the Middle East and fighting against enemies that hate America, they wish death to America, we have strategic partners like Israel. And with technology and other things that Israel brings to the table, outside of our Judeo-Christian connection, that's pretty much why I think that they are a partner for us and why they are beneficial in America, for American interest. And we can see that on a lot of scales. We'll get to it as we go through the conversation, but there's many fights, wars, and battles that America don't have to fight because we have Israel.
Fair. My argument to that would be, I think that they have brought on a lot of the wars and the problems that we're currently dealing with. For example, right, we know for a fact that Israeli intelligence was out there during 9/11. And 9/11 spurred the entire war on terror that we're still dealing with to this day. Israeli intelligence were the ones that basically gave us the botched information about the weapons of mass destruction. When you look at all of the architects for the Iraqi war, almost all of them from PNAC and the people that authored the Clean Break Memo were all Jewish Zionists, right? Dual allegiance, Jewish Zionists. From, Bill Kristol to Douglas Feith to Daniel Pearl to Wolfowitz, all these guys, all the architects of the Iraq war were all Jewish neocons. And I think that they've caused quite a bit of problems for us with this war on terror. And if it had not been for our interventionist foreign policy, which is structured by Jews, we wouldn't have the problems that we have now with the Middle East.
I think that the only place I disagree with, and I think we agree on the fact that we shouldn't be fighting endless wars and stupid wars that don't benefit America's interests.
Agreed.
And I think we did get dragged into a war. But the difference in what you believe and what I believe is that I don't think it's solely the responsibility of Zionists and responsibility of people from the Middle East or Israel. We have our own intelligence. We have our own military, and we have enough common sense to fight our own battles if we deem necessary. We don't engage in every single war that comes up and every single war that is beneficial for Israel, right? We're not fighting in Gaza, and we had limited capacity to fight in Iran. We're not fighting Hezbollah. We're not fighting any of these other front wars that Israel is fighting currently. We're not putting boots on the ground and doing any of that. Mm-hmm. So we have strategic positions in those, and we're not ignorant. And then people act like somehow our military personnel don't have common sense. You know, we fought that war in part for a benefit for America. And I don't believe that it benefited America as much as the warmongers would have liked it to. But it was an American's decision to do that. Israel didn't even help in the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. They didn't help in any of it. They didn't have boots on the ground.
Yeah, and they're the ones that got us in. That's what makes it so bad.
Well, they shared intelligence with us, but they didn't fight in the war. So a person can say in part,
bad intelligence.
You can say bad intelligence, but at the end of the day, the onus is on our people. Just because they come with intelligence, we don't verify intelligence. We don't make our own decisions. I don't think that's a fair statement. I think that you could say that they've given us bad intelligence. And if so, our government was responsible for taking those intelligence and running with it. Our government was the one that spent hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in a war, and we were there for 20 years. We didn't ask Israel to help us whatsoever other than intelligence. So I think that we have to hold a bag on that.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. Members of our government made really bad decisions. But let's ask, why did they make those bad decisions? Because they're Jewish and they have an affinity and a desire to support Israel. A lot of these neocons that I'm talking about from the Bush era in the early 2000s are Jewish, right? Let's just be honest here that Jews have an affinity to the land of Israel, and that makes them have dual allegiance. That creates inherent problems. And the reality is that they've had this strategy since 1996, since Benjamin Netanyahu took office after Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, which many suspect he was killed by a Likud, well, not even suspect, he was killed by a far-right Likud party member who people to this day, to include Yitzhak Rabin's widow, believes he was the one that was behind him being assassinated because he struck the Oslo Accords, which would have been the framework to a potential two-state solution. So Netanyahu gets into power. And then a bunch of framers write the Clean Break Memo in 1996. And in that memo, it illustrates all of the Middle Eastern countries that they want to take over. Iraq was at the top of the list. And then you fast forward to the year 2000, PNAC puts out a paper, Project for a New America. In that paper, they say they're going to have a Pearl Harbor-like event. They would need that to institute some type of regime change. And then bam, a year later, 9/11 happens. We have Israeli fingerprints all over 9/11 from the people that were in the towers, from the people that did the insurance policy and owned the buildings, to Israeli intelligence overseeing it and taking pictures and documenting it, art students that were in the country for multiple months or a year. And this is all factual. This isn't even conspiracy theory.
Right, no,
just have all
it
this
is,
stuff
it
that's there.
It is, some of it is conspiracy,
well,
right?
Let me just finish real quick. Let me just finish real quick. So you have all these fingerprints, right? These Israeli fingerprints. And then next thing you know, after 9/11 happens, we're going to war in Iraq. Where did that intel come from Iraq? It came from, them making the lie, saying that Mohammed Atta, the lead hijacker, went ahead and met with an Iraqi intelligence official somewhere in Asia, and they passed anthrax to each other. And then Netanyahu came to the United States and said, hey, if we take out Saddam, there's going to be positive reverberations all across the region. And then we went to war in Iraq, and it didn't benefit us whatsoever. It cost us, trillions of dollars. A million people died. Soldiers died. And I think America got smarter and didn't do boots on the ground now because it would have been so heavily, disavowed. But there's so many different things here where Israel creates problems.
Well, this is the thing. If you want to say it was a joint venture that went south, then I wouldn't disagree with you that it was a joint venture. But to blame Israel and blame the Jewish people or Jews for the entire scenario, I think is disingenuous. The commander in chief,
all Jews. I'm blaming the Jews that were in power that wrote this stuff.
The Jews are in power, but you got to understand, unless you are saying that George Bush had absolutely no he had no fight in the game, or he had no say in what we do in the military as the commander in chief of the United States military. You have to act as if somehow he don't have any say or he's not responsible whatsoever.
Well,
that's almost obfuscating responsibility from the bad policy positions of our own government.
No, you're right.
You want to say in a joint venture, and there's two sides to think about it. You could say in a joint venture in good faith they acted and it was wrong, or you could say in a joint venture they acted in something that's not in the best interest of America. We're not in the business of doing regime change, and our government was a part of that. So I think we agree that Afghanistan was a catastrophe. I think we agree that we shouldn't have been in Afghanistan and Iraq the way we had been, and our government was wrong for that. But to obfuscate responsibility and act as if it's just the Jewish leadership and the Jews are running America and the policies and all of their intel, we just take at face value with no type of resistance whatsoever. I just don't think that that's the case. If you want to argue that Jewish influence had a part in it, of course it did. Of course they were our allies.
That's precisely the problem. You have American politicians that are Jewish that are putting the needs and the needs of a foreign government.
Americans.
No, there was
every politician is not just Jewish.
No, well, I'm not saying every politician. I'm talking specifically.
I'm saying you got to say the entire Congress, out of entire Congress that approve wars. Especially in both House and Senate.
Let me explain.
How many Jewish people were involved in that?
Almost all the framers, all the people that are pro-war, right? The people that were the decision makers. Remember, and let me say this too. Bush was effectively asleep at the wheel with the whole war and the war on terror. Bush was extremely inexperienced, incompetent. It was Dick Cheney that was running everything. And under Dick Cheney...
Dick Cheney is not a Jew.
No, I know. But everyone underneath him, right, that were the framers of the war, right, were either hardcore Zionists or Jewish. Okay?
Okay, let's make a difference there. Are you saying that your argument is Zionism and Zionist? Or are you saying that Jews are the problem?
It was both Jews and Zionists. The ones that aren't Jews are super pro-hardcore Zionists. So, but the reality is... but that's a problem. That's a big problem.
I think the problem is that, how is it a problem? If you want to say that unwavering loyalty to Israel in a part that affects America negatively without any due diligence, that is a problem. I agree with you. But when you bring up Jews as if it's somehow uniquely Jews are involved in this, or they're leading the charge here, I disagree with you. Now, if you say Zionists, that includes Americans who do not have necessarily a lineage from Judaism or a lineage from Israel. They're just people who believe in Israel's existence.
To the detriment of the United States, and that's the problem. Well, they put we got no benefits from the war on terror.
Why is it just isolated as the Jews?
Okay, so see, and this is what everyone is kind of scared and everyone dances around it. I'm just going to call it like it is. The main architects and perpetrators of the wars in the Middle East are American Jews that have a dual allegiance to the United States. Do they have Americans who are not Jews that are Zionists that support them as well? Of course. But I think it's very important that we need to understand that at every single infrastructure in American society that has influence, whether it's big tech, the government, social media, finance, media, etc., it's controlled and run by Jews. They have an enormous amount of influence in our country. And the problem with that is that they have a dual allegiance. When you have this dual allegiance, you're going to do things that might not necessarily put America first or give America the benefit. Now, I'll say this. The war on terror was a monumental failure. We spent trillions of dollars on a war that didn't really benefit us, but who did it benefit? It benefited Israel. They've been able to destroy or destabilize or cuck each of their enemies in the Middle East, and we've been paying the bill for it.
I disagree with you on that point. Okay, let's talk about the idea of Jews, right? Okay. Jewish people and people who are Jews are not all the same. And I'm not trying to say you're saying that, but it's coming across as that, right? You have people who are ethnically Jew, you have people who are religiously Jew, and then you have Jews who are leftists and Marxists, and then you have Jews who are conservatives.
Sure.
And so when you say people who are leading these organizations happen to be Jews, of course, some of them may be Jews, but that's not as if being a Jew is a problem in and of itself. Marxism is a problem. Now, if people are leading,
but who made Marxism?
Pushing Marxist agendas.
Who made Marxism?
Marxist Jews.
But see, here's the thing, man. Sometimes we just gotta call a spade a spade.
The Marxist Jews are a problem. Can we agree to that?
Well, Marxism in itself is a problem, but that's a Jewish construct. So is feminism.
Well,
All the
if you say
isms
it's a
are Jewish
Marxist
constructs.
Jewish construct. That's not Marxism isn't exclusively for everybody that's a Jew.
No, but it was made
You
by
say
Jews.
Marxist Jews came up with the idea, so Marxist
It's made
Jews
by
are the
Jews.
problem.
It's made by Jews.
Marxist Jews. Marxist Jews.
Karl Marx was a Jew.
Right. Jews that believe in Marxism. That's like saying these ignorant black folks who vote a certain way that's destroying this country, somehow black folks created that. No, it's these ignorant black folks that are creating that.
Fair.
Black people are all
let me
not
say
the
this.
same.
Let me say this. It's not all Jews, but damn near every time it's always Jews. That's what I'm trying to say.
But the biggest threat
to America is Jewish
not
influence.
Jews.
The biggest
No,
threat
it's not.
that I will say it right now. Everyone else
No,
is too
it's
scared
not.
to say it in the right wing. The biggest threat we have in America is Jewish influence and subverting our government for their own agenda. Dude, the Israeli government just procured TikTok, the biggest social media platform in the country.
Who?
Israel just procured TikTok. Larry Ellison.
Israel just procured TikTok. Who's the biggest? No, just because but who invested in TikTok as well as Jewish influence?
Well, are you talking about when China had it, or are you talking about right now?
No. China started it. So first of all,
yeah,
one of the biggest influence was China.
Yep.
It was a big problem in America when China ran it.
Mm-hmm.
Investors into TikTok aren't just Jewish investors. There's Qatari investors as well. There's people from the Middle East investing in TikTok as well. They didn't secure TikTok as a Jewish. The Jews procured TikTok. That's not true.
Okay, let me summarize.
That's not reasonable.
Give me 60 seconds to quickly summarize the TikTok thing. Back in 2020, they were talking about banning TikTok because it was collecting way too much information on American citizens. They were thinking about getting rid of it. They never got around to actually do it. Fast forward, October 7th happens, and TikTok becomes incredibly pro-Palestine versus 30% pro-Israel, about 70% pro-Palestine. Jonathan Greenblatt goes to Israel and talks to the Knesset, or one of these government institutions, and says, hey, we have a problem in America. The youth are being indoctrinated by TikTok. They're seeing way more pro-Palestinian content. We need to do something. All the Jewish organizations in America, all across the West, got together and said, we need to rally against TikTok. Trump comes into office. What does he do? He gets TikTok down for about a day, and then he's able to get it back up. You can't put the watermelon emoji. You can't put from the river to the sea. All that stuff is banned. Fast forward even further. They're still not satisfied with how TikTok is being pro-Palestine. Larry Ellison acquires it. Now, all of a sudden, 2 days later, you can't type in AIPAC. You can't say America's run by Zionists, any of that stuff. So they're effectively beginning a censorship regime as we speak.
This is all speculation and conspiracy.
Larry Ellison is a huge supporter of the IDF. He's one of the biggest donors, and he's a Jew as well.
Look at X.
Okay.
X is the biggest anti-Semitic platform on planet Earth.
They're going to censor that too.
Why is it that case? And Elon Musk is not an anti-Israeli person. It's because it's a free speech platform. Now, do people see that there's a problem with anti-Semitic rhetoric? Yes, they do. So if the person who procured TikTok wants to combat that, that's their own agenda. You can't spew anti-Semitic things on any other platform except X. You can't do it on YouTube. You can't do it on any other platform. Now, just because this platform is associated with a Jew, don't necessarily mean it's some Jewish agenda for them to curate speech. If this was the case,
so it's just a coincidence that they acquired TikTok as Israel's trying to do a rebrand. Netanyahu's doing a bunch of interviews. They're putting money into influencers. They had a meeting in New York with a bunch of influencers literally 2 days ago. Now they get TikTok. You don't think that it's all just a coincidence?
No, so you're telling me the entire existence of TikTok is framed around Jewish propaganda?
No.
People
That's
on
not what I'm
TikTok,
saying.
billions of people all over the world that are on TikTok that have nothing to do with Israel.
That's not what I'm saying.
Don't care nothing about anti-Semitism. So you're saying that the crux of this is somehow because of Israeli propaganda or because of anti-Semitism?
No,
it's not the case.
Let me explain
TikTok
why
was
I'm
a
saying
threat to America that had nothing to do with Jews.
Okay, fair. When TikTok was a threat to America because of Chinese spyware, we didn't get it banned. It still existed.
Well, no, they were in the process of banning it. They brought it to Congress. No, listen.
Since 2020.
They banned it on government devices, so the government couldn't have TikTok on their devices way before anything was talked about anti-Semitism. So our government already took proactive steps to ban TikTok in various forms.
Yeah, but
they were trying to ban TikTok.
They were trying to, and they didn't do it, right? They were talking about banning it back in 2020. I remember, you remember, cool. And then they didn't get it done. However, it wasn't until TikTok started becoming more pro-Palestine and the Jewish lobby and Zionist groups started complaining that they were able to get it banned. So in other words, American national security when it comes to Chinese counterintelligence is not as important as making the Zionist organizations happy and getting watermelons banned. That's power. Our national security doesn't matter when it's Chinese, but when the Jews start complaining, it's like, oh no, we gotta get rid of this thing. And then Larry Ellison went ahead and procured it like a couple of days ago. I mean, it's just too perfectly, it's not just a coincidence.
That's for you to say Larry Ellison is acting in poor faith, like somehow he's
a hardcore Zionist. He's a hardcore Zionist.
If a business, like for instance, let's just say this: if I had enough money to procure TikTok. Because I ban anti-Semitism, because I don't believe in anti-Semitism, I think it's wrong, don't mean it's an entire conspiracy theory that I bought it just to curate the speech against Jews. That's what they're doing.
They're literally already banning. They banned Free Palestine.
Platform.
They banned the watermelon. X, they banned From the River to the Sea. They banned pro-Palestine content.
Every platform on earth except X already bans anti-Semitism. So it's not some phenomenon that an American company is going to ban anti-Semitism. Elon Musk is doing something different than just about everybody else, and this is why a lot of people use X. He has an open platform. I know for a fact that Elon Musk is against anti-Semitism, but he is not going to use that on his platform because he operates in free speech. So you're saying that another American purchased platform that says that they don't want anti-Semitism on it is somehow a conspiracy. No one in their right mind will only look at procuring a major multi-billion-dollar company, trillion-dollar company, just for the sake of curating speech around anti-Semitism.